I would like to talk a little bit about the idea of suffering versus pain. These are technical terms that we use. Um, you would hear people use those two words interchangeably, but I think it would be very useful to understand the Buddhist concept of the first noble truth, which has to do with suffering. And when they talk about the first noble truth, it is not so much that the truth is noble. It is actually that it means that it is a experiential realization that the nobles that have applied the work and come up with those truths. And the idea is that you could have pain without suffering. There are I'd say maybe two and a half sort of sources of suffering. One is the pushing away of pain or any kind of discomfort, physical or emotional. The second source of suffering is the holding on or grasping of pleasure. And I consider half, or maybe the third reason, is actually the unconscious manifestation of the pushing away of pain or holding on to pleasure. So, and that's actually much more deep and powerful than the other two, because when things happen in our subconscious and unconscious, we have no way of working with them, and they basically run our lives. It runs our behavior. So the more difficult one to work with is the unconsciousness of the two. And sometimes there are situations or experiences where we actually have both, even though we think it might be something that we like, so there's only grasping, but under further investigation you might find that you actually also have a little bit of the resistance of pushing away. And vice versa. You might have certain things in your life that you think bothers you only, but it turns out that part of you actually want to hold on to it. And certainly anybody knows that physical discomfort can be very challenging, but emotional discomforts can be even more challenging. So it is important to realize that if you have, whether it's a physical emotional discomfort or physical emotional pleasure, if you don't have that pushing and pulling and tightening, then there is no suffering. You could have very strong physical pain and yet you will not feel bad at all, or even very strong emotional pain, and you'll be perfectly okay with it. And on the other hand, if it's something like that is pleasurable, you will not develop any kind of craving behind that. So it is really, really important to differentiate pain and pleasure that causes craving and aversion, and suffering that is caused not by the pain or pleasure, but by our reaction to the pain and pleasure, which is the pushing away or aversion and the holding on to it.